This video is the last one in the Summertime Rendering series, where we will cover the story from episode 17 to episode 25. To understand this video properly, you need to watch my previous 2 videos on Summertime Rendering, the links to which I will provide in the description. Before starting the video, I request you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy it. So, friends, in the 17th episode, we see that the day of July 22nd was coming to an end, and Shinpei's friends were all safe. Ushio asks Hizuru, Hain was just a little girl, right? Then how did she become so evil? Basically, Ushio was afraid that if she ever started acting the same way, it would be terrible. But here, Hizuru says that if Ushio ever does something like that, she will personally put an end to her. Here, Mio's shadow even tells him to confess his heartfelt feelings to Shinpei. Meanwhile, Dr. Hishigatha shows Soyu his mother's ashes, and we come to understand that Soyu's mother had passed away back in 2013, and what we see in the present is her shadow. A detail I also mentioned in my previous video. Dr. Hishigatha stated that he had chosen Takiko as his successor to serve because Soyu used to take care of people, and for him, it was not possible to kill any human being. Here, we see that Takiko held her dad fully responsible for everything, and she tells Shinpei to go to sleep tonight since he had not slept for a long time. That night, everyone sleeps in the clinic, and we see Nizu and Ushio going to Nizu's house, where Ushio sees his wife inside. She had become a shadow 14 years ago, and tonight, they put an end to that shadow. Well, now everyone gets ready on the 23rd, and they split into 2 teams to search for shadows in the town. Before leaving, Shinpei gives Ushio her hair strands, hoping he will copy the data and regrow her hair. If you remember, they got damaged during the last fight. This helps Ushio a lot, and she manages to grow her hair back. Ushio and Shinpei arrive at the Hitobuchi family's house, where everyone has turned into shadows. Miss Hitobuchi, who was Shinpei and Ushio's teacher, cared deeply for all of them. Ushio recalls an incident where Miss Hitobuchi once taught her that hands should always be used to help people, not for violence. Now, they head to Mount Takanosu, where suddenly, Hitobuchi's shadow attacks some children. Shinpei and Ushio handle the situation together and also explain to the children about the shadows. Nearby, Hain had also fed on a tourist, to which Ushio suddenly responds by calling Hain a foolish girl. Why? Because Hain didn't realize that feeding on strangers wouldn't help her heal. However, the very next moment, Ushio herself is confused about why she said that. Now, both teams meet, and Shinpei figures out that somehow, there weren't too many shadows in the town. Regardless, they didn't want the summer festival to get cancelled. If you remember, a kind of mass sacrifice was supposed to take place there. After this, Shinpei goes to meet Karakiri, the head priest of the Hirako Shrine, where he probably discusses stopping the festival. The 2 of them sit inside the temple and begin their conversation. Meanwhile, on the other side, Hizuru tells everyone about the legend of Hirako. In 1732, a devastating famine struck, claiming the lives of many locals in Hitogashima. Then, one day, people saw a whale washed up on the shore in the middle of the sea. They were overjoyed, believing it to be a gift from the gods that would help them survive. But suddenly, a camera flash went off, and the whale transformed into a little girl. You can probably guess what happened next. The people were terrified after witnessing this incident and started worshipping the girl as the goddess Hirako. And that is the legend of Hitogashima. Back at the temple, Ushio, who was present in the form of Shinpei's watch, confirms that Karakiri is not a shadow. This means he hasn't turned into a shadow. He is still human. Shinpei and Karakiri casually chat about their favorite and least favorite novels and games. But suddenly, Shinpei brings up the folklore of Hirako. This was actually Hizuru's theory, which suggested that Hirako originally lived in space. Bored with her life, she came to Earth. Why did she come to Earth? So that she could copy herself into different things. That's why she arrived as a meteorite in the ocean and, 300 years later, took the form of a whale and came to this island. Shinpei then tells Karakiri about the shadows, but Karakiri laughs. Shinpei then shows him 2 photographs and says, "You must know everything, right? After all, you've seen it all happen with your own eyes." In the photographs, Karakiri appears once with Dr. Hishigata's grandfather and another time with his father. But the real question is, how has Karakiri looked the same for the past 300 years? So, who exactly is Karakiri? If he isn't a shadow, then, well, he is Shurta. Yes, friends, Hain's guardian, Shurta, is actually this priest, Karakiri. Shinpei now holds Karakiri at gunpoint and deduces that Shurta/Karakiri is neither fully a shadow nor fully human, but a hybrid. At this moment, we see Shinpei's team planning in the past, where Hizuru was the first to suspect Karakiri. How did she suspect him? Well, in one of the loops, when she was fighting Shurta, she got the same feelings or vibes from him as she did from Karakiri. Moreover, Shinpei thought that a priest worshipping Hiriko must at least know something about Hiriko. Also, the shrine was located right next to Dr. Hishigata's old clinic, suggesting a possible connection. Since Shurta always wears shadows as armor, everyone started believing that Shurta wasn't actually a shadow. Otherwise, he would have been able to transform. Dr. Hishigata tells Shinpei that originally, Shurta was the one who made the Hishigata clinic to serve Hiriko. And yes, Hain even had a son with him, and in every birth, the son looked exactly like Shide-Hiko. Basically, Hain and Shide-Hiko's son is Karakiri, and this cycle continued for generations. However, at some point, the Karakiri and Hishigata family lines split into two. One side became priests, while the other became doctors. So yes, this was the history of the family, which I hope is now clear to you. Additionally, I should mention that Karakiri is not only Hain's guardian but also her partner, which is how Karakiri's lineage continues. Now, in the present time, Shurta tells Shinpei that during the Great Famine, Hain turned some people into shadows so they could fish and survive. According to Shurta, if the people of Hitogashima are alive today, it is only because of Hain. Hearing this, Ushio gets furious. She emerges from Shinpei's watch and slashes Shurta into two. As soon as she does this, she calls everyone to inform them that she has defeated Shurta. But then, suddenly, the real Shurta appears from behind and stabs Ushio's body. Yes, friends, we realize that Shurta had placed his doppelganger in front of Shinpei, and in reality, he had already killed Ushio. This means that Ushio is wiped out right before Shinpei's eyes. Now, at the shrine, Shurta kills Shinpei as well. During this moment, Shurta taunts Shinpei, saying, "How did you even think you could ruin my ending?" As you already know, if Shinpei dies, he will return in time. But unfortunately, this time, something goes wrong. He finds himself alone in the forest, surrounded by children. A black crow appears in front of Shinpei, which turns out to be Hain. Hain then takes the form of a young girl standing in front of the children. Suddenly, multiple shadows appear before Shinpei and the children, and just as Hain is about to attack him, she senses something in Shinpei's pocket. After realizing this, she gets angry and leaves. Later, Shinpei checks his pocket and finds Ushio's shell necklace. He quickly pulls out his phone to call everyone. However, when he tries to inform them about Ushio's death and the need to change their strategy, his real self is unable to connect with them due to network issues. At this point, we realize that this is actually Hain. Yes, friends, Hain had divided everyone into two groups. She had lured Hizuru's team to a nearby island, while she planned to meet Mio and So at the restaurant. Meanwhile, Shinpei arrives at the restaurant with the children, only to discover that his shadow had summoned his friends there. At the same time, Shadow Mio had pinned down the real Mio, preventing her from moving. Shinpei rescues Mio and rushes to save the others. On the way, Karakiri meets Mio and So and reveals his true form. At the same time, Hizuru's group sets off toward Toraijima Island, and a massive battle is about to begin. Now, Hizuru and Hain come face to face, but Shurta suddenly launches an attack on Hizuru from behind. However, Hizuru manages to dodge it. 14 years ago, due to the guilt of Ryunosuke's death, Hain had mistakenly printed his data or consciousness incorrectly, which caused Ryunosuke to merge with Hizuru as a shadow. But now, in the battlefield, Shurta blames Hizuru, saying that she was the reason Hain became depressed 14 years ago and became so weak that she could only survive in this realm for a few more months. This is why Hain now wants to return home as soon as possible. In Shurta's perspective, everything started because of Hizuru. At this point, Ryunosuke's advantage of seeing 2 seconds into the future becomes useless, because Hain can also predict 2 seconds ahead and warn Shurta about Hizuru's next move. So now, The battle is evenly matched. What follows is an intense fight between them. Hizuru realizes that she must attack before Hain can predict the future, meaning she has to move faster than 2 seconds ahead. And amazingly, Hizuru actually manages to do it. However, her body gradually starts giving up, and she decides to escape from the battlefield. At that moment, Ryunosuke starts communicating with Hizuru in real time. However, Shurta is so powerful that he does not die from any of Hizuru's attacks. Now, Hizuru comes up with a plan. She will somehow push Ryunosuke inside Shurta's armor, so he can attack and destroy Shurta from within. Hizuru fights fiercely, injuring Shurta, but as we all know, Shurta can regenerate himself. During the battle, Hizuru explains that she is doing all this to bring peace to her brother's soul. Now, she is ready to risk her life to save others. Hizuru tries to reason with Hain, telling her, "Don't fall for Shurta's words. In the last loop, he said this is his ending. Obviously, he is just using you for his selfish reasons." However, Hain ignores her completely. At this moment, we realize that Shurta's plans are different from Hain's plans. And what exactly are Shurta's plans? Well, you will find out in this very video because of course, this is the final video. Now, Ryunosuke successfully enters Shurta's armor, while Hizuru is about to lose consciousness. Suddenly, Takiko's belly shadow launches an attack on Shurta. The scene cuts here. On the other side, Mio and Shinpei are fighting against Shurta's doppelganger. During the fight, Shurta reveals that Mio has died. Mio destroys Shiro, confirming that the real Mio is indeed gone. Now, they realize that the real Shurta is battling Hizuru, so they decide to head in that direction. On their way, they meet Takiko, who tells them to go towards Toraijima Island. Then, she herself perishes. Shinpei wastes no time. He decides to restart the loop by killing himself. Because at this point, he believes that everyone is already dead. So instead of letting things end like this, he chooses to go back in time and save everyone. Now, Shinpei and Shadow Mio stop So and Mio from going to the island in this loop. Then, they rush towards Toraijima Island. This time, Mio carries Shinpei at full speed, reaching the island quickly. Upon arrival, they realize something shocking. Last time, it was actually Hain disguised as Takiko who forced Shinpei to restart the loop. Because in that loop, Shurta was being beaten badly by Takiko's shadow, and perhaps, Shinpei's team was actually winning. So yes, as soon as Shinpei restarted the loop, Shurta got another chance to change the outcome. And this time, Shurta successfully killed Hizuru. At that moment, Nizu tells Shinpei to run, but suddenly, a bright light appears from Shinpei's pocket, which makes Hain and Shurta retreat. In her final moments, Hizuru transfers Ryunosuke's soul to Shinpei and tells him, even though Hain is a monster, her personality is like that of a child. Shurta is using her for his own benefit. You must defeat Shurta and free Hain. Saying this, Hizuru breathes her last. Shinpei is completely devastated by Hizuru's death. But then, Dr. Hishigata explains that Hain only created Shurta once, and Shurta has always preserved his original body. Shinpei learns more about Ryunosuke's 2-second ability and starts analyzing the situation. Now, they have lost Ushio, Hizuru, and Takiko. They don't even have any rifles or weapons, but their main objective is still left, defeating Shurta. At this point, Shadow Mio tells Shinpei that Ushio's shell necklace contains a part of her consciousness, which responds to voices. During their last fight, Hain sensed it and ran away because Ushio was a terrifying opponent for them. Basically, Ushio had stored all of her consciousness in this shell, and suddenly, Shinpei realizes something. On the evening of the 24th, Ushio will return, just like she did before. This means there's hope. Shinpei can revive Ushio. Meanwhile at home, So once again tries to propose to Mio, but her answer is still no. However, by now, So has come to terms with it and feels at peace. Later, Mio goes to talk to Shinpei and expresses her feelings for him. But Shinpei tells her that he sees her as his little sister and also confesses that he loves Ushio. Mio accepts this without any issue, because she just wanted to express her feelings, and now that she has, she returns to her room and cries. Now, the group starts planning for the 24th. and Shinpei explains the parallel universe theory. According to this theory, Ushio will return in this timeline. Because the Ushio they had before was actually from the third loop, she had been attached to Shinpei all along and was somehow traveling through time. So yes, Ushio will return this evening, and Shirda already knows about it. This will cause a problem for them. That's why they always avoided the glow of Ushio. Now, everyone heads towards the ocean to bring Ushio back. Meanwhile, Shirda invites people to the shrine for the night festival. The scene shifts. Ryunosuke communicates with Nizu through Shinpei, and they are sitting in a dark place. At the same time, Hain is confused because she hasn't been able to locate Shinpei for a long time. Meanwhile, Shinpei, hidden inside a shadow, heads towards the ocean to search for Ushio. Luckily, he finds Ushio. Shinpei returns Ushio's consciousness to her, and Ushio destroys all the shadows. At the same time, Shirda notices that part of his armor is broken and is unable to restore itself. Ushio moves in to finish Shirda, but Shadow Mio stops her and explains Shinpei's plan. Then, in front of Shirda, Shinpei kills himself once again to restart the loop. And where does he go this time? He arrives in the Hirako Caves. Now, Shinpei's plan is revealed. He will hide inside a shell and enter the Hirako Caves so that Hain cannot track his location. So, everyone hides inside a shell and heads towards the Hirako Cave, but by then, Hain figures out their plan. Before entering, the group arms themselves and sets out to destroy Hirako's body. On the way, they encounter a shadow that attacks them, but Takiko handles it. Eventually, they reach Hirako Cave, but to enter, they must pass through Hirako's flash. Shinpei had already planned for this and had brought fireworks from the night festival through Mio. By detonating the fireworks, they successfully break into Hirako Cave. As they move forward, Shirda starts chasing them, and Nizu stays behind to fight him. Meanwhile, Shadow Mio, Ushio, and Shinpei continue deeper into the cave. Suddenly, Shinpei experiences intense ear pain due to Hirako signaling, but Ushio helps him recover. Just as Shirda is about to attack them, Ushio saves Shinpei, while Hain, observing from a distance, signals Shirda. At that moment, shoots Hain with a nail gun and captures her, while Mio attacks her as well. Ushio is about to engage in her final battle against Hain, but then she remembers what her teacher, Hitobuchi, had once taught her. Her hands should always be used for helping people, not for killing. So instead of killing Hain, she attacks the walls of Hirako Cave, which destroys Shirda's armor. By now, one of Ushio's eyes had turned red, just like Hain's. Mio and Hain finally manage to defeat Shirda, but suddenly, red lights start flashing everywhere, and Shirda revives once again. This time, he is holding baby Hain, who has no eyes. Shirda hangs her on the wall, saying that she is now powerless and of no use to him anymore. Now, Shirda needs Hain's eyes, which are with Ushio. He kills Hain, cuts through the wall, and escapes into another realm. So tries to follow him, but Mio stops him, and both of them end up entering the realm. This place is strange, something we can call the Realm of Shadows, Hain's true home. Meanwhile, Shinpei starts searching for Ushio. In this realm, time does not exist, and if Shinpei dies here, he won't be able to loop back. Shinpei and Ushio are not alone. Ryunosuke is also with them and even takes over Shinpei's body for a while. This place looks similar to Hitogashima, but the colors are different. Following Hain's glowing orb, they reach the streets, where shadows are everywhere, though they seem harmless. Nearby, Ushio is sitting on the ground, crying. At this moment, we realize that Ushio and Hain have merged into one. Ryunosuke is about to shoot her, but Shinpei stops him. Ushio explains that this Hain is completely different from the Hain on Earth. She has no harmful intentions. She simply wants to talk, and soon, Hain emerges from within Ushio and speaks to them. She apologizes, showing that her heart is pure, free of any evil. Now, they discuss Shirda's plan and realize that he brought them here to steal Ushio's eyes. Since Shinpei cannot loop in this reality, Shirda needs Ushio's eyes to control time in the real world. With this power, he could even destroy the entire world, and perhaps that is exactly what he intends to do. Suddenly, fighter planes appear in the sky, launching missiles. Ushio protects Shinpei, And the good news is that shadows cannot be destroyed in this realm, meaning they don't take any damage. They figure out that if they erase Hiroko, who is attached to Shurta's body, they can return to their own realm. Shurta attacks them, but in response, Hain uses her power to launch Ushio toward Shurta. Ushio dodges the missiles and slices Shurta's armor in half. But, of course, this is still not enough to kill him. Just as Shurta is about to take Ushio's eyes, she revives again and reclaims them. While falling down, Ushio touches Shurta, erasing his air raid memory, the one from just now. She then signals to Shinpei, indicating that Shurta's real body is still on Earth, so they cannot do much to him here. Shinpei suggests completely erasing Shurta, getting rid of him once and for all. But suddenly, Ushio collapses, falling toward the ground. Luckily, Shinpei manages to catch her in time. Hain, however, knows that Ushio has used up too much energy, causing her to transform into a child. At that moment, Shurta appears in front of them again. Since Ushio can no longer fight, Shinpei tells Ryunosuke to possess Shurta's armor, so they can capture him faster. Meanwhile, Ushio whispers to Shinpei, saying that with her remaining energy, she will transform herself into a bullet. But for that, she needs 2 minutes. Shurta now accuses Hain of betraying him, but Hain replies that Shurta betrayed her first, which was the truth. Hain no longer likes Shurta, but in the meantime, Shurta rushes towards Shinpei and attacks him. A fierce battle breaks out, giving Ushio some time to prepare. Finally, Shinpei and Shurta stand face to face. Ryunosuke also fights, doing everything he can to stop Shurta from reaching Ushio. However, Shinpei's arm gets severed, and in that moment, he signals Ushio. What signal? To turn into the bullet. Now that Ushio has enough time, she finally transforms into a bullet and enters the rifle. At this point, Ryunosuke is exhausted and on the verge of giving up, but Shinpei motivates him, helping him push through. Ryunosuke then possesses Shurta's armor, holding him down, causing his outer armor to begin breaking apart. But there's a problem. As soon as Ryunosuke leaves Shinpei's body, he feels immense pain, making him unable to move. Still, he somehow forces himself to stand. Meanwhile, Shurta throws Ryunosuke out of his armor, and now, both enemies stand face to face. The rifle is lying a little far from Shinpei, and he hesitates to pick it up. But suddenly, the rifle moves into Shinpei's hands by itself. Hain had done it. As soon as the rifle reaches Shinpei's hands, he gathers all his strength. He dodges Shurta's attacks and then fires the bullet directly at him. With that, Shurta is finally defeated. Now, only baby Hiroko remains. Ushio touches baby Hiroko, and suddenly, they are transported back 300 years into the past, to the day when the whale first arrived at Hitogashima, starting the entire shadow phenomenon. This time, they see Hain approaching the whale, but Shinpei refuses to let history repeat itself. He scares Hain away, stopping her from reaching the whale. Ushio then realizes that to end everything, she must erase the whale itself. By doing so, Hiroko will disappear as well, and Hitogashima's past will change, altering the future too. This means everything will be reset, possibly even for the better. So Ushio does exactly that, and as soon as the whale vanishes, Hiroko disappears as well. Finally, Hain is freed, as she was deeply affected by Shurta's ambitions. Before leaving, Hain asks Ryunosuke, "If I am ever reborn, will you be my friend?" To which Ryunosuke smiles and replies, "Yes." With the past changed, the time loop resets one last time, and Shinpei finds himself back on the ferry on July 22nd. This time, Hizuru was standing in front of Shinpei, but to his surprise, he already knew her true identity: the famous writer Nagumo Ryunosuke. It became clear that Shinpei didn't remember everything, but he still had flashes of certain memories. Now, he had returned to Hitogashima, not for Ushio's funeral, but to meet everyone again. That meant Ushio had never died. Mio was the one who welcomed him back. But this time, his bicycle brakes were working fine, and so had also come to pick him up. As expected, Ushio was perfectly fine, busy cleaning up the beach. We also learned that it was Ushio who had called Shinpei back to Hitogashima, and everyone was alive and well. In fact, the best part was that Shinpei's parents were alive too, and he was living a normal life in his own house. Even Shirori was safe, and everyone was overjoyed to see Shinpei back. That night was the summer festival, and the children mentioned that it was happening on Heine's birthday. Instead of Hiriko's shrine, there was now a local shrine dedicated to the island's guardian deity, Hito. The temple priests had grown old, because obviously, they were not Shurta this time. Shinpei went to the beach, where he found Ushio searching for her shell necklace. He helped find her necklace, and apologized for planning to leave for Tokyo. Ushio confessed that she had been feeling like she would never see Shinpei again, and at that moment, both of them finally expressed their love for each other. On July 24th, during the summer festival, Shinpei got Hizuru's autograph and told her about a dream he had shared with Ushio, which was actually everything that had happened in the previous loops. Both Shinpei and Ushio felt as if all those events were just a dream. Later, at Ellen's cafe, Asako and Ryunosuke arrived with their two daughters, one named Heine and the other named Shirori. It meant that Ryunosuke had kept his promise, and he and Heine were now a close father-daughter pair. Because shadows never existed in this timeline, Ryunosuke survived, and everyone on the island was finally living happily. That evening, So once again confessed his love to Mio. Meanwhile, Hizuru got an idea from Shinpei's dream and started writing a book based on it. The novel was titled Summertime Rendering. Just then, Ushio called Shinpei and asked him to meet her at the beach. Shinpei brought takoyaki for her, but Ushio complained that he brought too little. To which Shinpei replied, "How much more should I bring?" Ushio then reminded him of a promise he had made, that he would buy her 100 takoyaki. Both of them then said the same thing at the same time, recalling how this happened when Ushio was searching for a secret door behind the wall hole. This indicated that they might regain all their past memories. At this moment, Shinpei and Ushio finally reunited. On July 25th, everyone came together to celebrate Heine's birthday. And with this, the anime came to an end. So, friends, this was the complete explanation of the Summertime Rendering anime. I tried to summarize everything in a concise way, so some parts might have felt a bit confusing. But if you watch the video carefully, I have clearly explained everything. Still, if you have any doubts, feel free to ask in the comments. And if you liked this video, don't forget to like and share it. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe to our channel, Midnight Manga.